You're watching The End Zone, sponsored by Brahms.
And welcome to another edition of The End Zone along with Camyrn Johnson. I'm Colby Daniels. This week's guest is Tyler McComas, radio host for The Ref in Norman. It's a good time to be in Norman, isn't it, Tyler?
Man, totally different than last year. Thank you for inviting me on the show after a 2-0 start and not last year during a 6-7 season. So thank you for that very much.
It did start good last year, though, right? I mean, they did win a couple games before the bottom fell out.
But you just kind of knew early on that this offense is going to have really difficult times moving forward. It's just not going to be a team that's going to be able to really compete in the SEC week in and week out. You've got a totally different feeling right now. We'll see if, hey, we won a big game, we got it made, we can just sit back for the rest of the year, or if this team this time around, unlike 2 years ago, is going to get better and better and better as the year goes on, because, Colby, I think that they've got a really big opportunity in front of them if they take advantage of it.
Yeah, I wasn't around last year for preseason, but just in the few times I got to go down there this year, it felt like the energy was that of a team that's like, we've got something going here. And I think, Michigan was obviously the big test to confirm if that was the case. Now they got to be careful with a game like Temple. It's a trap game on the road for the first time, but it'll be really interesting to see how they come back from that.
I'm fascinated just at the response from this team, because everything sets up for a trap game. Huge emotional win against Michigan. I think it's the second biggest win of the Brent Venables era, just because of what it meant and how you won the game. So you got that game in your rear view, and let's be honest, what's coming up a week from Saturday? Jackson Arnold, Auburn Tigers coming into Norman, your SEC opener. This is a sandwich game, noon Eastern time, early kickoff. Do they come out fast in this game, or do they sleepwalk and go through the motions? Because as soon as you got over the excitement of the Michigan win, I think OU fans looked around and said, all right, this is great, but is this going to be a repeat of 2 years ago?
Right.
Are we going to see this team again get better? And I think this week is a very unique challenge in that. You look great defensively. You did some great offensive things, but it wasn't perfect. Clean up some of the mistakes you had and come out fast and dominate a team like Temple. So in that aspect, I think this game is very interesting.
Yeah.
Not only do you have Michigan before it, Auburn, and the return of Jackson Arnold after it, you mentioned the early start, first time on the road. You also played this team a year ago, and despite how bad Oklahoma was last season, you beat the brakes off them, right? 51-3. It's a whole new coaching staff, though. They're off to a good start. I don't know how good they are, but they're clearly better than they were a year ago. There are a lot of elements that I think just make that game intriguing. I'm not suggesting that Temple is going to win. I'm just saying in response to what they did against Michigan, it's very intriguing. And I also walked away from the Michigan game with this thought that, the mistakes were kind of a good thing. We got to see them do a lot of the same things they did a year ago. The punt muff, drops on third downs, the turnovers, all those things that accumulated a year ago resulted in losses. They were still able to overcome all those things, physically dominate the line of scrimmage, and win a game against a power football team by double digits. You can clean up the mistakes. If you had been physically dominated, wave the red flag, right? We're talking about caution, sirens going off. They can clean up all the mistakes that took place against Michigan.
You can clean up roughing the punter. You can clean up the muff punt. You can clean up the bad return that you had by Jade Knott on the kick return. I think you can clean up Tate Sandell missing his first field goal of the night because he came back and made his other. But that's the thing, too, and that's why you're so excited is they beat Michigan kind of being Michigan in a lot of ways, right? They out-physicaled them. So if you can clean up those things, you're right, man. What does it look like? Because that product that we saw on Saturday, that's not the end result of this team if they take care of business. They can be a lot better as the season goes on. So it's the exciting part about it, but it's the word that we made up this off-season, the nerve-mistic part about it. Half nervous, half optimistic. It's, I've got all these reasons to be optimistic, but am I going to put myself out there once again? Am I going to put myself out there as an OU fan once again to get let down and hurt once again? But I think people after that Michigan win are all in and say, hey, whatever happens, I'm ready to be hurt again, but I think this time could be a little bit different.
Well, the biggest reason for optimism is obviously the offense versus what we saw a year ago under Ben Arbuckle. What have you seen from Ben Arbuckle's offense that gives you, I guess, the most reason to be optimistic, not only about what we've seen through 2 weeks, but for the season?
An actual plan, unlike a year ago. That's a good place to start. An offense that you have confidence is not going to go backward every single first down. An offense to where if it's 3rd and 5, you're not saying, oh my gosh, how are they going to pick up this 3rd and 5? There is no way. Like now with this offense, it's 3rd and 8. And I'm thinking to myself, they got a chance to pick this up and maybe even a big play. He's just changed the entire dynamic of this offense. And some people might say, well, the biggest improvement from last year is Jackson Arnold to John Mateer. Maybe that's the biggest improvement. I tend to think the biggest improvement from this year to last year is an offensive coordinator with Ben Arbuckle. Dude was in his bag on Saturday, you know? And no, OU didn't run it fantastic from quarter 1 to quarter 4 necessarily against Michigan. But when they had to run the ball, when they needed to run the ball, when they needed to pick up first downs, when they needed a drive with 10 minutes left in the game.
16 plays, 8-minute drive?
When's the last time we've seen an OU offense do a drive like that? When they needed to run the ball, they were really able to run it. They did some big things in the pass game. Ben Arbuckle's fantastic. He's got bigger challenges moving forward, but I think he is the biggest upgrade from a year ago.
Yeah, you mentioned confidence. That's exactly what I was going to say. That team feels like it comes out, the offense is aggressive, and like you mentioned, you're going for it on third down. It is that feeling of, okay, what's next? Not, ooh, are they going to get it? You know, being at the game on Saturday, aside from that, 74-yard run to start the second half, I feel like there was never a moment where it felt like, fans were really nervous, and I think that is, a testament to how the offense was playing and what Ben Arbuckle has brought in that sense of confidence.
If you lived through last year, and if you are a damaged OU fan, maybe you did get nervous when
Sure.
they cut it to 14-7
Yeah.
and they go 3 and out. But if you removed yourself from that, realistically, if you watched the game, you probably thought the entire time, Oklahoma's the better team.
Yeah.
And yeah, Michigan cuts the score in half, but OU's going to eventually pull away and win this game, which is exactly what they did. And it's nice to have an elite quarterback, and it's nice to have a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a lot of things to win a championship, but I think the 3 things that you need the most: do you have a quarterback? Do you have a defensive line? Do you have an offensive line? I think they've got 2 of those 3 things at a very elite level. We'll see how much better the offensive line can get moving forward. I think that that's the tale of the season moving forward. How much better the offensive line gets could, it be the end result if this team's a championship team or not at the end of the year.
I know it was week 2, but in week 2 you had 4 new offensive line starters of the 5 from what you trotted out there in the season opener. Once again, testament to Bill Bedenbaugh and the job he's done.
Well, I think you found your 5, and that is maybe the most underrated thing that happened on Saturday. The win itself was great. The entire country was watching. It was a huge recruiting weekend, all that. But you found your 5. And Colby, how often we've been talking about OU switching up its offensive line mix and trying to find that 5 and found continuity. They didn't play exceptional, but they played solid.
Right.
And guess what? What they did on Saturday is all they need to do moving forward. They don't have to be an elite unit. Yeah. They don't need to be an elite unit. You've got help at wide receiver. You've got a dude at quarterback. You've got a great defense. You've got things around. Just be solid. Don't make terrible mistakes. Don't put your offense behind the sticks. I think that was very good. Michael Fasusi, boy, who's not excited about him at this point. I think that they have a chance, now that they found their 5, to really grow as the season moves forward.
I agree. It's going to be fun to watch that offensive line develop, and in turn, what the offense potentially is capable of in their ceiling. All right, Tyler McComas is our guest this week. We've got to take a time out. There's a new Heisman frontrunner, and he resides in Norman. John Mateer next here on The End Zone. Welcome back to the End Zone. All right, we talked all about the Oklahoma offense. We didn't mention the name John Mateer much, which is, maybe an oversight on our part, or we're just giving him the proper amount of time that he deserves, his own portion of the show, because he's now the Heisman frontrunner after a dominant Week 2 performance, especially with what he did on the ground. This guy is decisive. He has swag, which I think is contagious to the rest of this offense. This is everything Oklahoma was looking for when John Mateer's name was originally brought up out of Washington State and looking at Oklahoma via the transfer portal.
It's unfair to compare him to the guy, but you guys know where I'm going with this one. Were there not some moments that looked like Baker Mayfield?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
There were some Baker-esque moments on Saturday.
It feels like low-hanging fruit to say that, but
it
like
is.
the more that I watch it, it's very similar.
That's not where the comparisons to Baker stop either. Just like 2015, Baker Mayfield wasn't just a great quarterback. He was the perfect quarterback at the perfect time for OU. Because 2014 was a rough year. You had to, fire Josh Heupel. He moves on. The program had gotten maybe a little bit stale. You needed kind of an injection of life in your program. Baker Mayfield gave you that. 6-7 season. Fire the offensive coordinator. Big questions. The coach is on the hot seat. You need some energy back in this program. John Mateer's a great quarterback. I think he's the perfect quarterback at the perfect time in a lot of ways, like Baker Mayfield was. But the dude can do it all, man. He can stretch a defense. We saw him run around and make plays. He's got moves in the open field. And isn't he just fun and exciting to watch? I mean, even if you're an unbiased college football fan, you enjoy watching John Mateer run around, make plays.
Yeah.
It's like I hesitate to even say Baker Mayfield, but I don't know any other comparison but to say Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I saw on social media it was a comparison of John Mateer's play, and I can't remember if it was the third or fourth quarter where he breaks out of the pocket and finds a guy downfield. They compared it to a play that Baker had against Ohio State, and it was like an identical play. And so, I mean, there is that. But yeah, I mean, he's just such a fun guy to play, and I think a lot of times with an offense, it does start with the quarterback in terms of bringing juice to the team. And I think like the way he plays is so confident and he backs it up. And especially, you know, as they were figuring out the offensive line mix there, it's good to have a quarterback who can keep plays alive while they figure it out. And now that they do look like they're heading in that direction, it's good to have both of those options going.
He's just a guy that, and I say he was the perfect quarterback at the perfect time. They didn't have a leader on offense last year. No one was set up for success offensively last year. The offensive coordinator got fired halfway through the year. The offensive line was beat up and young. The wide receivers were decimated by injuries unlike anything I've ever seen before. They needed a leader to come through, not just a great player. And day one, that guy walked in and the entire team said, "You're our guy. Take charge." So now all he's got to do is plant the flag in the middle of Lincoln Financial Field against Temple, and then I don't know if he's going to recreate the whole Baker Mayfield thing at Kansas, but maybe that's coming somewhere down the line.
I mean, look, they both beat a Big Ten opponent in week 2, right? I mean, there's so many similarities. The one difference, I think, is the fact that Baker had an established offensive line. Baker had an established run game. I mean, Baker's Heisman-winning season, Rodney Anderson, was phenomenal, especially on the back half of the schedule. As of now, John Mateer is by far the biggest threat on the ground. So John Mateer is kind of doing a little bit, maybe called to do a little bit more than Baker Mayfield had to. His running ability is dynamic, and Ben Arbuckle spoke about it earlier this week.
He sees the field really well, whether it's in the passing game or whenever he pulls it down to run. But yeah, I think I've been on record saying I personally think John Mateer's a football player before he's a quarterback, and special one too whenever he pulls the ball down to run. So I mean, there's certain things that I wish I could sit here and tell y'all I taught him everything he knows in the run game. No, if you look me up, I was not a runner. All right, I was very slow, stiff, statue Division II quarterback. All right, so I definitely did not teach him that. He's just a special kid, a special athlete.
A, I love that he cracked himself up just thinking about his own mobility. But B, he said John Mateer is more of a football player than a quarterback. And I remember a lot of people saying that about Baker Mayfield about 10 years ago as well. So a lot of comparisons. We'll see if they're on the same trajectory. A lot of football to be played, but very optimistic from the John Mateer standpoint. All right, Tyler McComas is our guest. We've got to take a timeout. Moving the chains coming up next here on the End Zone. All right, welcome back to the End Zone. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Moving the Chains. Tyler McComas is our guest. He's going to try to pick up a first down. You're going to start with 1st and 10. I'll fire a question your way, depending on how well you answer it. Camyrn will give you positive or negative yards. You got to move the chains.
Oh, perfect.
All right, first down. You're going to Philly. Watch the Oklahoma Sooners in action. You're going to be in an NFL stadium watching maybe a future NFL quarterback. So I've got an NFL quarterback question for you. Start one, bench one, cut one. This is just for NFL, not their college careers. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. What do you got?
Everyone in Philly, I talked to a guy this week, says, you don't give us enough credit when it comes to Jalen Hurts. Talking about everyone in the NFL. He thinks he gets disrespected. I will start the Super Bowl MVP, even though I'm a Cowboys fan. It hurts me to say. I know. I will bench Baker Mayfield.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to cut Kyler Murray. Give me a 5-yard loss on this.
That's a tough one. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I'll give you 2 yards.
Okay.
I mean, it's a tough one. You could argue like maybe Baker with the Eagles.
Can I throw a challenge flag on this? We've never thrown a challenge.
I
would throw a challenge flag. As a Cowboys fan, I can't start Jalen Hurts and I can't roster Jalen Hurts. He has to be the one cut. I'm sorry.
A beaten down Cowboys
fan. Not Phillies. Philadelphia Eagles, sorry. I still have Phillies Karen on my mind. So.
Second Nate, Arch Manning wishes he could get to second Nate, so I'm actually happy with the first one.
There you go. That would be a dream for Arch Manning. All right, power poll in week 2, top 5 SEC teams.
LSU 1, they've got the best win in the league. Georgia at 2, they did not look great last week, but still the SEC champ last year. It's Georgia. The Oklahoma Sooners, led by the best defense in the league and John Mateer, number 3 in the SEC. I guess I'll go Arch Manning in Texas at 4. The offense isn't great, but I still think their defense is really, really good. At number 5, let's go with the South Carolina Gamecocks. They've got an interesting game this week at home against Vanderbilt, but I like Lenora Sellers and Shane Beamer. I think they got a good squad this year.
I mean, you got your top 3 is the same as mine, so it's hard to disagree with that. I'll give you a pickup of let's go 3 there.
Third and
All right,
short.
third and manageable.
Yeah.
Third and manageable. We can do that. All right, Oklahoma State went 3-9 last year. They were absolutely demolished by the Oregon Ducks last week. They've got an off week before Tulsa next Friday night. Will Oklahoma State win 4 or more games this year, superseding their 3-9 record?
Well, I don't know. Are they going to come up with a more imaginative offense? More of the offenses that we saw earlier in the Mike Gundy era that were really putting their playmakers in space and doing some fun things? It looks like they're running some sort of an offense that Alabama used to run, just trying to bully teams. I don't know what they're doing out there. No, I don't think that they win 4 games or more this year in the Big 12 slate.
See, I've got them at 4 games max, so I see what pretty in agreement there. I'll go ahead and give you the first down.
All right.
First down.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're just playing with house money as we wrap things up. Philly is known for the Philly cheesesteak. OU is in Philly this weekend. What is your Mount Rushmore of sandwiches?
Well,
The cheesesteak on it?
steak sandwich is first. Before we're mentioning Philly cheesesteak, steak sandwich is number 1. I am down with the grilled cheese with maybe some bacon in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
3, just the traditional turkey sandwich, ham sandwich, mayonnaise, tomato, no lettuce. It just gets in the way of everything else that's good about that. I guess I'll throw the Philly cheesesteak in there because if I don't, they're going to watch this. They're going to find out about this. They're the worst sports fans in the country. They're going to throw batteries at me. They're going to throw beer cans at me. So just because I'm going there this weekend, I guess it's on the Mount
you're
Rushmore.
throwing them some bones, right? Jacob Burns is the one you're starting, the cheesesteak.
Yeah, okay, I'm the worst judge for this because I'm not a huge sandwich person, and if I am, it's got to be a hot sandwich. For me, Philly cheesesteak is probably up there, and then the steak sandwich. So just because I'm a little more biased here, I'll give you a pick up of 3.
Okay.
They think it's so much better up there. We'll see. I got a feeling I'm going to eat a cheesesteak up there and say
you got to at least try it, right?
I've had decent ones, same ones around here. We'll see.
You
Yeah,
got to
it's part
have
of
the
the charm.
terminology. You're going to get it with whiz, without whiz. That's the cheese.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I've heard. I've never been there.
All right, first down, Tyler McComas on Moving the Chains. We're going to wrap up the show with our game picks next here on the End Zone.
Time now for the Brahms in the Bag Pick of the Week.
All right, time to make game picks, and we're going to start with a monster matchup in the SEC. The Georgia Bulldogs in Knoxville to face the Tennessee Volunteers.
So Georgia historically has a lot working for them. I think they've won the last 8 of these matchups. I feel something special brewing for Tennessee this year. I think I actually have the Volunteers possibly pulling off the upset, but if not, I think it's going to be a close game decided possibly by field goal.
Georgia SEC champ last year. Everyone's wondering, is the dynasty over? Is the dynasty over? Did Tennessee actually upgrade at quarterback with Nico? Georgia wins by a touchdown.
I think Tennessee might have upgraded at quarterback, but it doesn't matter. Georgia by at least a touchdown or more. All right, game number 2, we've got South Florida, the upset kids so far of the college football season, at Miami.
Yeah, I'm going Miami on this one. I think, South Florida, they're excited about it. They've got that momentum, but I think this one might humble and bring it back to reality a little
This
bit.
is the hate segment. I hate the Eagles and I hate Miami, but it's tough to go runner. I got Miami. They'll win by 17.
16.5 is a lot of points for an in-state rivalry that South Florida feels something about against the Hurricanes. Give me the points and South Florida to keep it at least closer than 17. I've got Miami winning, though. All right, Florida at LSU. This is an interesting one. Florida lost last week. Florida beat LSU last year. A lot of interesting elements at play.
Yeah, I think Florida definitely has that chip on its shoulder, but LSU is just looking really convincing right now. I'm going LSU on this one, but it'll be close.
This one looks too easy. LSU and Florida look like 2 totally different teams. I guess I'm going to take the bait, not the Florida bait, but the Tiger bait. Give me LSU minus 7.5 in Death Valley.
All right, here comes the kiss of death. We're going to go 3 for 3. Give me LSU minus the points, and I'm sorry, Tiger fans, if you're watching. All right, game number 4, A&M at Notre Dame.
At Notre Dame, I'm going Notre Dame on this one, just simply. I think they're the better team so far, just what I've seen, so we'll see.
Texas A&M is going to win outright. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but it's not November yet when their season crashes. So maybe I have a chance here. A&M outright.
We'll see. Quarterback is banged up. I think Notre Dame is the better team. I think Notre Dame wins, but Notre Dame doesn't pull away from people. Yeah. So I think it's Irish by like a field goal. I'll take the points in A&M. All right, final pick, OU at Temple. Sooners giving 21.5.
Yeah, I think they cover that, but I think they're going to get off. We were talking about it. They might get off to that slower first half start and then pull away in the second half.
Defense hasn't forced a turnover yet. They'll get 2 turnovers. They'll turn into touchdowns. OU by 24.
Defense, I think, completely dominates that Temple offense. OU big, and we're talking about a monster matchup next week with OU and Auburn. Tyler, thanks for joining us.
Anytime, guys.
That is it for this week's edition of The End Zone. We'll see you next week.